But I read somewhere in one of the cycling forums that you did a 12-hour time trial on a mountain bike and passed 300 miles. Is that people misinterpreting your bike as being a mountain bike, you think, or is there any truth in it?
Well, there's no truth in it. No, that not that detail of it anyway. I did do 302 miles in 2006 in a 12-hour on the bike that I ride. Effectively, the right bike that I ride now. It's a different frame, but it's the same style of bike, and it may be construed as a mountain bike because it's got triple chain rings and V brakes on it, but it's just a bike basically. It's not.
Yeah.
It's just the bike that I ride. I have ridden 24-hour time trials on bikes that really were mountain bikes. In fact, they were over the years. The bike I only ever ride one bike really, and that's happened since I stopped road racing in 1988. I've only ever really ridden one bike at any one time. So the bike that I've used has evolved over the years. But in the 90s, I did ride a mountain bike. It was a mountain bike frame, pretty much mountain bike equipment, and I changed the wheels. They were always 26-inch mountain bike wheels, but I used to change the type of wheel and the type of tyre depending on what I was doing. So back in the 90s, when I rode quite a few 24 hours, they were ridden on a mountain bike, albeit with faster tyres on it than you'd have in normal use.
Right. So that's where that's come from.
So that may have come from a bit of that, yeah.
Right. And a man for all seasons and a man for all bikes. You've held the solo bike Land's End to John O'Groats record independently at one time, didn't you?
Yes, 1990. I set the solo bicycle record. Yeah.
Right, and I believe you still hold the mixed tandem record.
Yes, with Lynn Taylor from what was then the Walsall Roads Club.
Right.
Yeah, Lynn and I have ridden. Well, we're both fascinated by long distance racing, so we've been friendly for years, and that was really a plan to sort of familiarise Lynn with the whole event, because myself and various other people at the time felt really strongly that she should have a go at the end-to-end record, the ladies' end-to-end record, which at the time was held by Pauline Strong, and we felt that she could do that. That was, that she'd be brilliant at that kind of thing, and so we did, and I was sort of quite keen. I thought it'd be an interesting thing to do technically for myself, and I knew Lynn well, so I had no doubt about Lynn's ability to do it really. But as it turned out, our aim was to beat the tandem record, which is held by two men, and whose names at the moment have escaped me, but I do know their names very well. I've actually met one of the guys, and they are absolute legends, these guys. Pete's with us, and John will go mad for me not remembering his names. Should have researched this.
It'll certainly pop into your mind.
But the two men who hold the record set the record, I think it was in the 50s.
66?
66, possibly 66, yes. Legendary guys, the toughest guys you could ever imagine. It's a brilliant record. I think it's about 2 days, 1 hour.
Right.
Our aim was to beat that record, the all-time tandem record, which is held by these two men. At the time, the mixed record was a lot longer. It was about 2 days, 9 hours or 8 hours or something. We felt we could do that relatively easily, but beating the men's record would be more difficult. So that was our aim. In the end, we didn't beat the men's record. We were about an hour short of it, but we did set. The only record that we could officially beat was the mixed tandem record. We did beat that by a considerable margin, but we didn't beat the all-time men's record.
I was thinking, after all that huge amount of effort, to be an hour short must have been, or even though you broke the mixed record, you must have felt a bit, oh crikey, couldn't we have found the hour somewhere? But you can't, can you?
Well, I think we could have done had I been better. I was disastrous in that attempt. Lynn was absolutely solid gold, as she always is in long distance record attempts. I've been with her on numerous 24 hours and end-to-end records, and she's absolutely bulletproof. And she was on that tandem attempt, but I was hopeless. I got sunstroke, I think, although at the time I wasn't convinced it was. Lynn's dad John was convinced at the time that's what it was sunstroke, and I think he's right. It probably was, and it was probably got through not wearing a hat. It was done on the weekend of the London Marathon at the end of April, 20th and 21st of April, 2000 I think, and it was very hot, as it often is that weekend. It was 80 degrees down south, and I didn't wear a hat. I don't usually wear a crash helmet. That's just me, but so I wasn't wearing a hat of any sort, and I think because I just got too much sun on my head, and later on in the ride I was sick. I just all sorts of problems really, and so we stopped a lot. We spent a lot of time and stopped, and I was falling asleep and all kinds of issues really, but they were all my issues. Had Lynn had a better pilot, she might have, she was well capable of stoking that tandem to a sub 2 day time, I think.
Right. I suppose you do sort of. I mean, I sort of think you've held the. It's a bit like the hour record, isn't it? It doesn't matter whether you'd hold it at the moment. It's having held these things that's important. But so you've held the men's end to end. You've still therefore held the mixed tandem. You still sort of, you don't have any thoughts in your mind about having another crack at the men's tandem?
Not directly, no. It's a big project. Doing a 24 hours is a big project. Doing an end to end is a much bigger project. And Jill, my wife Jill's busy with her Ironman triathlon racing at the moment, and it's just too big a project to get involved with really at the moment. I mean, I always say never say never these days. You know, I'll never sort of. I should never say I'll never do something at all, because you just don't know.
You never quite know what's around the corner.
It's there. I mean, end to end, it's a great adventure, and you know, it's a big project to get involved in. It involves a lot of people, a lot of time, and a lot of money, and a lot of everything really. But I still think it's a fascinating journey and a great race, and I'd never discount doing anything. I mean, I'd love the record. If I'm thinking about end to end, I don't hold. Gethin Butler holds the end to end record now, basically the men's end to end record, and you know, I'd love to think I could get it back perhaps one day, but I have grave doubts whether I'll ever do it really. But Gethin rode absolutely fantastically to get that record, and carried on for 1,000 miles to beat the 1,000 mile record as well, and you know, that was something. I was there to witness it as it happened, because I was helping Lynn on her end to end race at the same time, the same weekend that he attempted the men's record. So I witnessed him come into John O'Groats and leave again for the 1,000 mile attempt, and it was great. It was an honour to be there, and he's a top guy, Gethin. So, but whether I'll do it again, who knows?
How do you cope with sleep deprivation in these things? It's
not too well in my case, quite.
Is it just something that you just sort of say, well, I can't sleep now? Do you not worry about falling asleep, say, on a long, steady descent and drifting off down the wrong side of the road or something like that? Does it not worry you at all?
It is a problem, and even on tandem attempt with Lynn, I was falling asleep on the A9, and it is quite possible to just fall asleep while you're still cycling. And in 1990 on my solo attempt, I did pretty much ride off the road at one point. I just sort of clattered to a halt, pretty much asleep really. So it is a bit of a problem. This is a slight safety issue, but it's something that should be managed. It's part of the philosophy of the event really, that you manage that sleep before it hopefully you manage it well enough so that you don't get that tired. And I think experience has taught me now that a bit of sleep early on, deliberately taken early on, is better than pushing until you get to the point where you just can't stay awake any longer.
Right.
So it's all part of a plan that you need for the race really.
Because sleep's a funny thing, isn't it? Sometimes even a very short sleep can keep you going for many hours.
Yeah, that's right. Just a little power nap of 10 minutes planned deliberately early on would probably make a big difference.
Yeah.
And careful management of caffeine as well. The first time I did the end-to-end in 1990, we were very nervous about caffeine because we wanted to have a drugs test after that race, just because we thought it would be good for the event. And caffeine was still one of the listed substances then, so we need to be very careful about how much caffeine we took in. But caffeine isn't a listed substance now, so you could be a little bit freer with it. But experience has taught me that taking too much caffeine anyway can be a negative thing. But whatever you do with caffeine, it has to be carefully monitored. You need to start it around the right time, and once you've started it, you need to keep a regular intake of it, but just small amounts. So, we've got a bit more experience now about things like that, and we could probably manage the caffeine a bit better. And, but largely with these ultra marathon events, you've got to leave the body to do its own thing. Your body is equipped to deal with these kind of things supremely well, really, and the important thing is to let the body pretty much deal with it itself. It's got sort of backup mechanisms that will kick in to enable you to survive these kind of things. And if you start messing around with big doses of caffeine and all sorts, you mess around with the way the body works, and it's not a good thing, really.
No, it looks after itself, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Very
your
much
body's,
so.
well, it's 10 times cleverer than we ever know it is, really.
Absolutely.